Okay, guys. All of us have been talking on the internet here about the same issue on our Harleys. What happens when the antenna breaks off of our tour packs? I've got a 2007 Harley Ultra. Mine broke off. They appear as though you could just drill them out. Don't even think about it. What happens is this bolt inside your tour pack is actually into that stud. Now, this bolt, it's hollow. Mine is a 2.5 hex. Problem is, the hex itself would not turn it. So instead, I went up to the hardware store, took the nut that came off of it, leaded the threads on a piece of paper, took it up there, they matched everything up, and I bought three nuts so I could lock them together. By locking them together, I'm going to be able to unthread this bolt out of here and release it. Now, it so happens that these are 5/16. I'm going to be using, I've got these things locked together. You'll see they're not exactly even. That's what they call locked. When you thread them on, you use 2 wrenches, countering so that they actually tighten down on each other. By tightening down on each other, they will not come undone as you turn it left or right. So, next step here, I'm going to actually unthread that. Now, I'm going to be holding on to this at the same time, so the camera is not going to be covering all of this. And I'll show you as the next step goes. So I'm going to pause right here. All right, I got it broke loose, so now I'm going to go ahead and continue here to loosen it some more. As it gets really close, I'm going to have to make sure that this doesn't drop in. I don't have any clue if that hole is deeper. Now this is really tight. I'm lucky there's a thread so I can stick my fingernail there. And I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to hang on to it and not let it drop down. It feels like it. Bingo. There is the rest of that stud. And here is that thread. Here we go. Here is that thread that came out of there. Now, the replacement, we're going to go ahead, put it back in, and thread this in, doing virtually the exact same thing, except in reverse. You'll see that there are indeed threads that aren't broke off on this one. There's a hole, so we have to face that hole towards the tour pack hole where this stud is going to go back in. There is not much space in there, so as I let that stud go in, it went to the bottom of it. It does feel like I may have to pick it up. Again, by having these nuts locked, it allows me more pressure to turn it, and it does feel as though I've got it started. So I'm going to go ahead and try, without stripping this, turning it just a little bit. Bingo. We now have it started. It's letting me go ahead and finger turn it on in. Once I've got it done to that point, I want to go ahead and tighten it. So again, we're going to tighten it this way, using these, with these forcing against each other. It is going to tighten that in. You can see it turning. Bingo. We now have this back snug. We now have a full nut sticking up, a full stud. So we will be able to go ahead and screw everything right back on the way it was. I'm going to pause for a second. All right, back doing this again. I took 2 5/16 wrenches so I could break these loose individually. Now virtually all of those will come loose without loosening that stud that's still in there. The fact that it did have a hex inside is irrelevant. By doing this, we were able to use the entire thread stud to turn itself. So whether your hex nut stud inside is stripped or not is irrelevant. You can still get this thing to turn off. No issues, no problems, and that'll still allow that thread to be pulled out. So next step, go ahead and put back on the one that we had along with our wiring. It's also a 5/16 if I remember. Tighten that down. It is 5/16. By doing this, again, that stud is not turning whatsoever because we tightened it in there so snug. By turning those nuts, of course it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. We want to make sure this doesn't come loose because we've still got to get our liner back in. Being the radio, we also don't want any shorts taking place. Wire shorting can short out the radio, CB, any of that stuff. We don't need any of that because we all know that's not cheap either. Then we have our antenna itself. Now this is the radio antenna. You'll note that there is nothing down here for it to actually secure itself into. So it just simply threads back onto this. This is the stubby. We are tightening it down just as tight as we can. And it is secure. There is no space down there whatsoever. So that leaves us over here. Now this one is a whole lot easier because it didn't break. We do have a hex in here that we're going to remove. You're not going to be able to see this because of the lighting right now, but the hex is down here at the base. It's in the antenna itself, so that's going to be the first thing that I have to remove since this one is not broke. So let me get that hex size and we'll figure it out from there. Okay, so here is the hex. It is going to come out with a 2 hex on it. So we will slide this into it. Just a sec here. Easier said than done. I think I might have already got it loose enough. Not quite. Still snug in there. So just a sec. Alright, you can see I've just about got that one out all the way. There is a second one up here, so if you ever did run into a problem with your full antenna, I assume that whole thing can be replaced. But since we're going to stubbies on this, we're going to be replacing this antenna also. So I need to pull this off so we can get to the stud. I think we're just about there. And we are. It came out. So we've got that stud out. This should be slipping off. I think it's probably going to unthread the same as the other one did. Very much so. Our replacement, it's inside the tour pack.